Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be a Leader podcast, where we talk about current events in sports, military, and business through the lens of leadership. And we just finished the first 4 games of the NBA Finals between the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs. And man, it has been crazy. If you are an NBA fan, you are loving it and hoping this goes to 7 games. And if you are a Knicks fan, you're also elated because you're 1 game away from winning an NBA Finals, first time in almost 50 years. And if you're a Spurs fan, you are extremely frustrated, upset, hurting, trembling, all the emotions that could come off from losing a 29-point game last night of the day of this recording. So there is a lot to go through on this game. And we're going to see the main things that when the pressure is on, it reveals the type of person that you are. Something I've been talking about with many of my episodes about pressure, how important it is. That's why I coach confidence under pressure, because that's how you perform when things show up. So I am still hurting from last night. But we are going to learn from this series, including the Spurs collapse from last night. I don't know what else you'd call it. But going back to pressure reveals who you are. So we've got 5 main lessons that we're going to learn over these 4 games. Most of it's heavy on game 4. But let's see what we can learn through these first 4 games. So the first one, we're going always identity. Identity under pressure. Who are you when the pressure becomes real? And we see we're going to start with the game from last night. Game 4, the Spurs were up by 29 points in the second half. Okay? They built this lead through fast pace, aggressiveness, attacking, playing their style. They had an amazing first half of the game. But then later in the second half, they started to change. They started playing not to lose. So instead of playing their fast, aggressive attack style, they started slowing down the ball. They started not putting the ball inside. They start settling for 3-pointers instead of rhythm 3-pointers. They start to change who they are. Okay, the identity, behavior, results framework, the IBR framework, says that you have a very strong identity first, match it with behaviors, and the results speak for themselves. In the first half, the Spurs did that. They had that alignment. In the second half, they did not have the alignment. When the pressure got harder on them, the identity was challenged. They didn't live through that identity. And that's what hurt them. Whereas we spin it on the Knicks, which I talked about from last episode, they were fighters till the end. And they continued that the entire time. Their identity of fighters and the behavior of fighting went through the entire game, and they had that miracle win, winning by 1 point at the very end of the game. They didn't take the lead for the last 90 seconds of the game. And they had a tip in with 1.2 seconds left, essentially the end of the game. Okay, that comes from them never stopped fighting, they never stopped believing, and they kept focusing on that identity. Who are we? Let's go harder. We'll make some adjustments. We'll talk about adjustments here in a little bit. But they focus on that identity when the pressure was hottest. Okay, and that's what bothers me a lot with these teams when they should win the game and they don't. They change their identity. Let's play not to lose before they're playing to win. Right? The Knicks were up the series 2-0. The Spurs won the third game is 2-1. And they come in this game hot as you can possibly be, scoring 76 points in the first half, which is unbelievable. And the second half, then they're like, oh, instead of playing to win, let's just play not to lose. I say it over and over again. It is a recipe for disaster. It's easier said than done because emotions play in us. We have emotions in us, and we fail to realize that. That's where good coaching is important. That's where good leadership, multiple layers of leadership is important. That's why Brunson's a great player to have on your team. Right? So when the pressure hits, oftentimes the instincts can be to change something, but you got to focus on your identity. How do we get here? And this is going to be a phrase that I'm stealing from my son. He'll make these phrases. He said this in the NCAA tournament where he made his list and he made his predictions. And when a team lost that he thought for sure was going to win for him, he'd be, oh, what the betrayal. And I'm going to use that exact phrase here. It's a betrayal to yourself, your own identity. Who are you if you're a fast, aggressive playing team that plays freely and in the flow, and all of a sudden you start stalling the ball, passing it back and forth, never going inside, never getting to your big guy, not playing good defense, being sloppy. Well, what do you expect? You're betraying yourself. What the betrayal. Well, that's what it hurts as a Spurs fan, as a coach rooting for them, right? The betrayal. They hurt themselves. They only did it to themselves. We'll talk about the next point here very soon. But it is a betrayal of self because you're betraying your very identity, who you are. That's why it hurts so much. And that's why I feel so good for the Knicks. because they continued that belief in their identity. So this leads on to the next point. Not only is it betrayal, complacency kills. I say this many times too with other episodes. It's a phrase from the Marine Corps. Okay, you have to make sure that everything's important. You do things in the moment for the future. That's where discipline is. Okay, you do it now because of how important the future is to you. And when you start getting complacent, you get relaxed. Oh, I don't have to do all these things anymore. Things will always work out. I don't need to double check. I don't need to check my radios. I don't need to check my channel water. I don't need to check my mags or get refresh mags. I don't need to do these different things. And then the next thing you know, something fails because you did not plan accordingly. Okay? That's where a lot of people get killed in combat operations. And that's where a lot of teams lose in games. I see it a lot at the end of quarters. I happen a lot with my team too in high school. Okay, you give up points. You give up 4 or 5 points at the very end, the last minute of the quarter. It's terrible. The Knicks have done a great job of doing it against the Spurs. Okay? But let's talk about, again, the first half. How can we go deeper? How can we learn from this lesson a little bit more? Let's look at the statistics. First half, Spurs scored 76 points. That is a ton of points. That's as much as entire college games. Okay? They shot almost 60%. It was like 59.6%. 60% of their shots went in. Okay, 3-pointers made the most ever in a half or a finals. I mean, 14 3-pointers. It's a record. They were hot. They went from 76 points in the first half to 30 in the second half. They went from 60% field goals made to 20. And it was all in their control. The Knicks were consistent on defense for the most part. They were consistent. But the Spurs had the betrayal, again, self-betrayal. Okay, not honoring themselves. All you have to look is Victor Wembanyama. He took accountability. He said, we clearly were not the most hungry team in the second half. Let that sit. That's the split. It's the same players. It's the same talent. It's the same floor. Okay, it didn't rain mid-game. The terrain didn't change. They didn't lose. It wasn't 5-on-4. Right? Things that happen in the military that can change the battlefield doesn't happen in sports. All they do is flip sides. That's it. There's no other changes. Okay? He brought it here. It's not talent. It's not strategy. It's hunger. Complacency, again, is within your control. That's why it hurts so much. Because we like by natural to point fingers. Oh, you did this. Oh, you did that. It's hard to say, it was my fault. I wasn't hungry. I didn't meet to my expectations, to my own standards. That's what he's saying essentially here. We were not the most hungry team. We're hungry in the first half. We weren't hungry in the second half. Knicks were hungry the whole time. They had a chance to win, and they took it. 3-1 is really hard to come back. Okay? The moment you think you've won, you're going to start to lose. You got to keep pushing. Pushing. That's what we're doing in the Marine Corps. We push. Complacency kills on the battlefield, and it also kills you on the court, on the ice rink, on the football field, whatever your playing surface is, it will get to you. And that is a leadership challenge that all leaders have to face, but is within your control. Do not get complacent. Let's just continue as we talk about the first 4 games of the Spurs and the Knicks. And that's going to be adapting. You need to be able to adapt. It is a competitive advantage. And we've seen some good from both teams. Okay, so this one isn't not just the Knicks doing better, right? The Spurs have done it too. Let's look at the beginning of the series. Anthony Townsend, KAT, Carl Anthony Towns, right? KAT, Cat for short, outplayed Wembanyama the first 2 games. He's not as tall, but he's still tall, and he's got size. He gets momentum when he goes downhill. And he has experience. I mean, he was playing for Minnesota for many, many years on an organization that was not winning. He's hungry. He knows these opportunities that never happen because he's never been there before. But he was hungry. He was overwhelming. Wembanyama. But the pressure in the moment was also, because this was a stage that Wembanyama has just not been in yet. You could tell because he just couldn't. Victor couldn't move. Victor Wembanyama just couldn't move very well. Charles Barkley called it like sensory overload or a shock to his symptom. He had not been exposed to that level of competitiveness yet. So in game 3, he had to adjust. which meant spending more time in the paint and getting the ball in the paint. I mean, he's 7'4", he's massive, he's got an 8-foot wingspan. He should be spending most of his time around the paint because he dictates so much on defense because of his size, but also on offense. He became more physical. It started to solve that problem. And so by game 3, the Spurs were able to make some adjustments and be able to win that game. They won that game by 4 points. And then in game 4, who's going to make the adjustment? The Knicks start making the adjustment. Here's the thing. This is the classic adjustment. Great job for the Knicks doing it. But I'm telling you, any great or any basketball player that's watching this, or any young coach, if your shots aren't going through, what do you adjust? The classic one is go to the rim. Go to the rim. Good things happen in the rim. You get some short shots, dump offs, you get fouled, you can make layups, and you can always kick it back out for rhythm shots. Okay, get to the rim. Knicks started, they didn't shoot very well. They didn't play particularly bad in the beginning of the first half. They looked like they had a lot of pressure because they were playing at home with lots of expectations. They weren't playing particularly bad. They're just missing a ton of shots, and the Spurs were hot as could be, shooting 60% from the field. But the Knicks made that adjustment, just going more towards the rim, and it's starting to work. It started to work. They started seeing the ball going through. They had a lot of free throw attempts. I think they shot, 22 attempts in the first half. That's a lot compared to, 8 for the Spurs, I believe. They started to see the ball go in, and it started to pay off in the second half. We'll talk about the second half here soon. But everyone gets punched in the face. The enemy always has a vote. Your opponent always has a vote. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And we're seeing both sides trying to make adjustments, right? We saw the Spurs finally getting that win. We see the Knicks taking again game 4. What's going to happen in game 5, right? We can talk about that here a little bit later. But you got to make some adaptations, some changes. Okay, we're not talking about changing your identity. We're talking about the overall strategy, but some of the tactics, some of the little things. Okay, don't change who you are. Just be very intentional on trying to understand what the enemy is doing, what you can do about it. So that's the third lesson we're going to talk about. Let's go on. We're going back to pressure. I love talking about pressure. Our habits get revealed. Our habits make decisions for us under pressure. Where do we see this? Well, we're going to look at some careless plays from the Spurs. We knew they were young and didn't have a lot of experience, and the habits are starting to show. Bad habits that are still kind of there. At the very end of game 2, the Spurs had a chance to win. They got the ball, and they passed Wembanyama, pass it off the back of his player because Castle wasn't looking for the ball. It was not a good pass. As a coach, in these situations, you want to pass in the middle because there's opportunities. You pass it to the sideline, they can get trapped. There's just not as much options available. And out of bad habits, he threw it off the back of his own player. The Knicks, Brunson gets the ball back, gets an opportunity to get free throws, and they win by the game. The Knicks win by 1 point. The Spurs should have won that game. Bad habits showed up under pressure. We see it again on the game at the end of game 4. Last 10 seconds, Fox gets the get the outlet pass. All he has to do is drain the clock, right? There's 10 seconds left. Just drain the clock and make them foul you. He decides to go up. I don't know if he's being a hero, but it's really just the habit of just going up for the layup, not being mentally, especially aware, situational awareness, goes up. It gets blocked. And then later, the Knicks get that tip in at the very end, right? The routine break, too. I think about Wembanyama, missing 2 critical free throws at the end of at the end of game 4. He was definitely tired, and that's probably a lot on him, but also on the coach, making sure that he's getting the rest. Okay, the habits, good practices for the coach is making sure that your best player gets rest so he can play at the end of the game. Bad practices from the coach, which is something he usually doesn't do, is let him play way too much. And he played way too much. He's played for over 40 minutes of a 48-minute game. Okay, you can't let him play more than what he's used to. He's going to wear down, and that's what happens. So we start getting sloppy. Good habits. Okay, man, we got to talk about Anunoby. He's been fantastic. He made some big plays. He goes at one play at a time, and nothing phases him. Kind of like Brunson, but his own style. Okay, here we got a Big Ten guy, Indiana player with Anunoby, making big time 3-pointers. I think he made 6 or 8 in the game, but he had that block under 10 seconds on Fox, and then went in and got that tip in shot at the very end of the game to win the game. Okay. Good habits, and those habits is I'm going to go hard no matter what on defense and offense and defense. That's one reason why I like Anunoby, because he plays both extremely well. That's where Victor Wembanyama would be as well. But the habits decide for us. We got to build good habits. That's where the identity, behavior, and the results come in. You build those behaviors. You got to practice. That's where my core, 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 and building confidence under pressure comes from. Part of that is the repetition. What are your reps before? Build good habits all the time, because oftentimes the instincts take over. Right? You want good habits. Oh, so I already talked about Brunson making clutch plays, Anunoby blocking that, making that shot. They've trained for that. Okay, you can't cram confidence under pressure. Okay, you build it through repetitions, through standards. Okay, over time. So let's move on to the next one. This is the last one. When I think about the Knicks and Spurs after 4 games, I think about confidence. How confidence can become contagious. Let's just talk about one big phrase here. Emotions are contagious. I've seen it when a great player gets super fired up, it gets the whole team fired up. I get one where he gets super down, everyone gets down. I get one where they start pointing fingers, they all start pointing fingers. The emotions were all over the place in the first half with not technical fouls, but flagrant fouls, a lot of pushing, there was leg grabbing. There was all types of stuff going on in the first one. Elbows going to the face. But confidence can become contagious. How do we look at this? Well, halftime, when the Knicks are down 27 points, 29 points, Coach Brown told the team, hey, let's just cut it down to 17 points by the end of the third quarter. That's it. We're down 27. Let's just get down by 17. We get down by 17. We can get a little bit closer within 10 points towards the end of the game. We're in a position. Let's just give our chances a chance to win. That's every coach's job. Just give your team a chance to win. Okay. And there was no panic. And they weren't hoping for a miracle either. Because let's be clear, even though they came back with this major comeback victory, it was not a miracle. They outplayed the Spurs. The Knicks deserved that chance and that tip-in. Okay, that tip-in, it's either going to go in or out, but they deserved to have a chance to win, and they took it. Okay, they were not panicking. They were not expecting a miracle. They had a plan, and they had a confident plan. And clarity plus belief plus execution, that's what builds the confidence and gets the results. Okay. And we contrast that with the Spurs. Wembanyama was so more focused on getting in people's heads, as entertaining as it might be, getting in people's heads in the first half and putting fear in the other team versus then confidence in his own team. Because then they got cold. They couldn't buy a bucket. They were missing so many shots. Great players are missing big shots. Okay. Confidence is contagious. It just takes someone to step up, someone to start to light that fuse. The coach brought it to the team. Brunson brought it to the team. Anunoby brought it to the team. And before you know it, people were making shots, and they won that game. It was unbelievable. Okay, the final minutes, that game winner. They interviewed Anunoby about that. So what ended up happening, right, is that Brunson had inbounds ball. Brunson had a few seconds. They inbounded him the ball. He missed a shot. Anunoby was in the paint, went and tucked it in to win the game. There was 1.2 seconds in the clock, but the Spurs made a terrible play, inbound play on their own right. They didn't even get a shot off, right? A good shot off. But the quote from Anunoby was, once the shot went up, I realized that no one was boxing me out. I was in the paint. No one was boxing out. So I just went up and I was going to tip dunk it, but I just tipped it in. It was just, I don't know. I was open. It was easy. I didn't even think about it. I just did it, right? It wasn't luck. It was confidence in his preparation. He wants rebounds. No one boxes him out. He's going to go. He's not going to think about it. He's going to go do it. Okay? People that are confident don't look for confidence. They build it over time, and in the moment, they just act. And Anunoby's a great example of just acting in the moment. And confidence becomes contagious. As I just mentioned, you start dribbling all the way down. Okay? Confidence drives execution. The composure sets the tone. Your belief spreads. People can read each other's bodies. Our bodies speak so much for us. And that's part of leadership, is showing up with that confidence and spreading out to the team. And as we finish up that fifth one, I just want to talk about the end of the series. Yes, the Knicks are up 3-1. They have a chance for the first championship since 1973. This is a very big deal, not only for New York City, but for the sports world, for the basketball world. Obviously, I'm going for the Spurs. I'm rooting for them. It is going to be a very big task for the Spurs to do this. Now they're going back to home, but it's so hard for a team to come back from 3-1. That's going to be really tough. If they can score 76 points at each half of the rest of the series, they have a great chance to win. Okay, the likeness of that is not there. It has been a very competitive series. Out of the 4 games, the margin has been 10 points, 1, 4, and 1. Total 16 points in 4 games. It's been a very good series. I can't remember a time that the series was this close where there's no big blowouts. I mean, there was a blowout last night, but then it came to competitive at the end, right? I cannot remember the time we've had this. It has been very good to watch. And for the sake of basketball, let's get to game 7, okay? At least game 6. But let's see what happens. Here's the challenge, too. And this is the reason why I picked the Knicks to win this as much as I love the Spurs. The identities, they're winners. They don't stop. They go hard. They are winners. There's a reason they won 13 games, playoff games in a row. Yes, they might have a weaker conference, but they play who they play. Show up. We'll beat you. That's what the Knicks have been doing, driven through Brunson. Okay, they have that mentality. It's going to be very hard to beat them 3 times in a row when no one can beat them hardly even once. Okay, Spurs only have 1 victory right now. It's going to be very hard. I still think the Knicks have everything. I thought coming into this game, based on how the Spurs played in New York City, that whoever would win game 4 would win the series. And now that the Knicks squeaked one by with 1-point victory, I think they're still going to win. But I'm definitely rooting hard, right? Wanting the Spurs to win. So let's go into the 5 lessons. And let me get my college basketball clipboard, whiteboard, whatever you call it, on the key takeaways for this episode of Be a Leader podcast. So the first one, identity wins under pressure. When the pressure comes, your identity is exposed. You've got to have alignment between your identity and behaviors. Keep them together. The Spurs did great when they did in the first half, and they did terrible. Self-betrayal in the second half because they didn't have that identity alignment with behaviors. Why? Because number 2, complacency kills momentum. Again, you self-betrayal. Don't betray yourself. Okay, don't become complacent. That's why I call it self-betrayal. You're doing it to yourself. The Spurs became complacent. They killed their momentum. The Knicks stayed consistent. They made adjustments, but they stayed consistent between their identity and behavior, and the results gave them a chance to win. They took it. The third one, adaptability is a competitive advantage. The teams have been able to adapt. That's the fun thing between March Madness and college, where you have 1 game and you got to make all the adjustments in that 1 game. Whereas in the NBA, where it's a series, you got to make adjustments over a period of games. But the Knicks have done a little bit better. Let's see what happens here in game 5. But we're still realizing how important making adaptations in the moment is, how important that is in between games. Fourth one, under pressure, habits become decisions. Our habits speak for us. I'm sure Wembanyama didn't want to pass it off the back of his players, on his back. That was not what he wanted, but his habits, his practices did that. He's tired, he's going to pass it off. Or he's tired, he's missing free throws because he gets out of rhythm, right? Or Fox trying to go for a layup instead of burning off the clock. Anunoby blocking a shot and then within the same 10 seconds going in and get a tip in, right? Our habits speak for us. That's what we train. That's why in the Marine Corps we train so much to build a strong identity, build those actions over and over again in our practice and our behavior so that we're in combat. We don't have to think. We act decisively in combat situations. That's why we're such good war fighters. And that's what I try to bring back to other areas, such as sports. Under pressure, our habits become our decisions. And the 5th one is confidence is contagious. Okay? I never wanted to work for a Marine Corps officer who was nervous or scared. No, that's not what we do. We are confident. Doesn't mean we're arrogant, but we're confident. We plan, we prepare. We prepare and train so much as we can within our budgets and our time and everything that we have, our limited resources, so that we have confidence when we go on the battlefield. Confidence is contagious. It starts at the top. Coach Brown did a great job of challenging his team. Brunson and Anunoby did a great job of living through that challenge. The Knicks took that one. Unbelievable. So again, pressure reveals who you really are. Not who you want to be, not who you pretend to be, but who you really are. Okay. And the Knicks revealed what I had predicted, that they're fighters, they're believers, they don't quit. And the Spurs revealed what I also predicted, that they're talented but inexperienced. They can execute when it's easy, but it's a struggle when it's hard, which is most people. Let's be clear, okay? They're extremely talented. That's why they're part of the reason that they're here in the NBA Finals. Okay, confidence under pressure. What is confidence under pressure? Okay, it's not thinking you're going to win. Okay, it's knowing that you've prepared for this moment. Going back to my Marine Corps example. Okay, it's not panicking and changing When you don't think it's going to work out, it's trusting in your identity and living to it. Okay. It's not forgetting your training, okay, but it's believing in your habits and letting your habits speak through that. Okay. It's not spreading fear on your opponents, but it's inspiring those people around your most important asset, right? Your people. And again, calm me down. These last few questions, when the pressure rises, what type of person do you become? Okay. Are you abandoning your training? Or are you doubling down on the great habits that you have? Are you getting comfortable? Or are you staying hungry, to use the words of Victor Wembanyama? Can you adjust? Or are you getting stuck and fixated, tunnel vision on what's going on? Do your good habits show up? Or are they disappearing and bad habits coming in? Does your confidence inspire? All right. Or does your panic spread fear, like what happened with the Spurs? Oh no, they're coming back. They're within 20. They're within 15. They're within 10. They're within 5. There's 90 seconds left. They took a 1-point lead. Gosh, I'm so bad. Okay. That's the difference between the Knicks and Spurs, okay? The difference between good and great. And that's what the finals are teaching us. So as much as it disappoints me the Spurs had that historical game last night, let's embrace this as learning moments for all of us. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Be a Leader podcast. Hopefully my next episode, I am enjoying it a little bit more, the outcomes that we're talking about. But if you enjoy this, please share it with someone else who could benefit. If nothing else, if you like it or put a 5-star, that also sends it out because of that algorithm. Love to know your thoughts, the comments. What do you think of the first 4 games? What's your predictions coming up? Let's learn from each other. And after all this, remember, whether you're leading yourself, leading others, or leading leaders, be a leader. My name is Daniel Pinedo. Thank you. And until next time.